Joe Biden, the guy who signed the TikTok ban into law. It's very important to bring this up, that a lot of people try to say that, oh, you can't blame Biden for this. Yes, you can. It was
Yes, you
like
can.
he was the
Yes, you can.
president. The buck stops with him, no one else. And I saw people say, I think, John, I saw it on your video where you talked about this. People were saying, well, they hid it in like a funding bill. Whether that's true or not doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. You're the president. You know what's in the bill. You're.
I'm sorry, I couldn't read the bill I was saying. What
kind of excuse is that?
He's the most powerful man in the world. Stop treating him like you're a 12-year-old nephew.
They don't even have to read it, guys. They can just be briefed. They can be briefed
exactly
on it. Honestly.
Yes, people get paid a lot of money to read through hundreds of pages of a boring text. And listen, you listening to my voice right now, honestly, it doesn't matter how old you are. Your signature means something, right? Your signature carries a hell of a lot of weight. The course of your life could be altered by signing a piece of paper. That applies times a million to Joe Biden, okay? If he can't be held responsible for this, I don't know why we put him in the position. So, yeah, it's Biden's fault that he did it. And him coming around and says, well, maybe I'll just kick the can down the road. It is perfectly emblematic of Joe Biden's term in office. We're going to get to that, later on the show. But Rio, I believe you're hearing this for the first time. What's your reaction now?
No, like, here's the thing, dude. I'll tell you guys what my opinion is, and it might be way out in left field. I feel like this is weird ego pageantry, basically ego campaigning against each other between Trump and Biden, both not wanting to be held publicly responsible. It's optics. They don't want to be held publicly responsible for destroying TikTok. And so they're trying to pass the hot potato to each other. I'm not going to fucking bet. I'm going to do that. And so I feel like that's my opinion. I feel like this is an attempt at making kind of maybe whitewashing Joe's ego, you know what I mean? Like, before he leaves. That's how I'm taking it. Is that weird? Is that too weird?
So I unfortunately have to report, and I really hate to say this because even speaking it into existence is harmful to me. But I know what's happening here. Mm-hmm. And once you hear this, I think you're going to agree with me. This is exactly precisely what happened. I think that the primary impetus for the entire TikTok ban, while, we like to talk a lot about Palestine and all of the free speech and all of this, definitely plays a factor in this. Don't get me wrong. But what has become clear to me is that this is a fucking power move for American companies to buy TikTok. What happened is that the US government was like, yep, we're going to do this so that Meta or someone can step up and buy TikTok, because obviously that's what TikTok was going to do. That's what what happened with Grindr when we did the same thing with Grindr. And then TikTok was like, fuck you. I'm going to call your bluff. And the American government was like, what do you mean? No one's ever done that to us before. And now they're sitting here like, well, shit, it looks like they're really going to call our bluff and people are pissed. And that's going to have egg on our face. So we got to scramble to stop this from happening. I think that's the clearest explanation of what's going on here and why I always said I'm not very worried about TikTok going anywhere because there's too much money tied up in this thing. That's kind of what we're seeing play out here. I mean, they thought they had a power play. TikTok called their bluff and they realized, oh, fuck, we need TikTok more than TikTok needs us. Which is essentially a good thing.
So you think they're just going to keep kicking the can?
Yeah. You know how like every time you have like had to get a new ID, they've like told you for the past 20 fucking years that you have to get a real ID or you won't be able to fly.
Yeah.
And then every time you go to fly, it's like, oh no, we can use your normal ID without the real ID. Yeah, that like this is what they fucking do. Like it was all a fucking stunt. They just gonna kick the can. They might get some deal. They might get like I don't know. I don't know what's gonna end up happening, but my level of TikTok isn't going anywhere, or if it goes somewhere, it'll go somewhere very briefly. Is higher than it's been all week as of today.
Interesting. Okay. What do you think, T-Dan?
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad theory. I'm more just bewildered at the dedication to looking stupid. Just absolutely dedicated. Because maybe they gambled like, well, TikTok's not going to call our bluff, ByteDance. They'll take the money rather than shutting down completely. But you really got to have a contingency plan in case they don't do that, right? You got to have some kind of idea of what you're going to do besides, oh, my bad. I know that I said this a year ago that this is not new information. This was going to happen, but I don't want it to happen. Trump, you take care of that. And this also, how dedicated are these folks to making the party fall apart and just look incompetent? I mean, this just because no matter what happens now, Biden is going to look worse than Trump, no matter what happens, honestly, especially now that he's like, well, I'm backing out on my commitment to get rid of this national security threat. I'm not going to bother shutting it down. This is harmful to you, my fellow Americans, according to me, but I'm okay if it doesn't go away. That can't be true. Like, if you really believe TikTok was a danger to you and your children, you would get rid of it right away. But nope, that's actually how I never believed that it was a danger in the first place, because you wouldn't wait a year to get rid of something that was an actual national security threat, right?
It's funny, TJ. Yep. Like, when we were talking on Tuesday, we're like, I guess we'll talk about this. I guess we'll talk about this. And then it kind of just came into clarity what all our topics would be today. And we knew the Gaza deal was coming, but like, there's just such a clear through line in all of our topics of utter incompetence from Joe Biden. And we're going to be talking about his legacy later. But like this, the Gaza deal, everything, it's just incompetence. It is an inability to think about how your actions actually impact the world. Because you're right, like, there should have been a contingency plan, but there also should have been a contingency plan for if Joe Biden is too old to run, or if his approval rating is too far down for him to win again, or if any of these things are true. There should be a contingency plan if you aren't able to lock up Donald Trump. There should be a contingency plan if he runs again. There never fucking was. There was never any changes of strategy ever. There wasn't a contingency plan for if Trump won, because they're just continuing to do the same bullshit they already did. Like, I made a thread today and I was like, it is insane. If they lost the House, the Senate, and the presidency, they lost the whole damn trifecta. If this were a football season, that means they went fucking defeated. They didn't win a single game. Can you fucking imagine if your favorite football team went 0-17 and then the head coach, the GM, and the quarterback all kept their jobs? It would never fucking happen. But here we are. We have the same leadership making the same dumbass decisions with there seems to be no more urgency for change. It's like they just weather the storm and they're like right back to their old bullshit. And it's so frustrating that this is the world we have to fucking live in.
Yeah.
What do you think, Rio?
No, amen to all of that. That's exactly how I feel. I have nothing to add.
Yeah. This and not only do they keep everybody, but they says, we're not even going to bother changing strategy. This is going to be exactly the same. In fact, if you criticize us, you're the problem. That's something that I'm not surprised that this happened, but you knew it was going to, right? Like, you knew that if the Democrats
I had a little bit of hope. I genuinely had hope after the election, TJ. I know I'm a fucking Charlie Brown kicking the goddamn football, but I did have hope.
No, but it's like, because during the entire time, it started out like during the debate, really. The debate is really when it started cascading down. When anyone with a pair of eyes said, wow, that was a really bad performance. And then you had people saying, no, it was actually good. He actually won. He won because Trump lied. So that means Biden won, because that's how debates work. Debates are honesty competitions, right? And whoever tells the truth gets the most support. And I say, folks, that's not what's happening. It's not what's going on. I mean, you saw the reaction from the pundits, from the people, the snap polls they took all showed Biden lost. And what you saw was, honestly, what we saw during the debates answered a lot of questions that are suspicions that we had. Because John and I would always talk about how Biden could have done the same victory laps, like the ones that Trump did about the economy or the metrics like unemployment or the stock market. Trump did that Biden was never doing that. It's like, why isn't he on TV every day saying this? Well, now we know why. Now we know exactly why, because he couldn't string sentences together. And it's like, okay, this guy's not up for it. And still, like, influencers and pundits were all saying, you guys are going to be the reason that he loses. When Harris started saying, well, I really love the fact that Dick Cheney supports me, and let's campaign with Liz Cheney. Let's say we need a lethal military to fight the Hamas threat. It's like, this isn't going to help. And when we said that, we were yelled at. It's like, okay, well, folks, this is what happens. And do you want to keep losing? Because it sure as hell looks that way.
It looks like they do want to lose. Like, I mean, maybe this is way too fucking simplistic, but the oligarchs behind the Democratic Party, which I feel are essentially kind of controlling where the Democratic Party goes as far as its agenda and its platforms, they are okay with Trump winning. That's kind of like, it seems like they are more afraid of the left and scooting it all to the left. They would rather let like intentionally, I don't know, I don't want to say controlled opposition. I know that people have strong feelings about controlled opposition, but god damn, it's something like that because it's so bad and so wrong and so like intentionally, it looks intentionally evil sometimes, you know, or at least contrived in a way that it's like they know that they could do better and they know how, but they don't. Anyway, does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense, Rio. It's actually, I love that you mentioned the terms oligarchs and controlled opposition, because someone else mentioned the term oligarchs yesterday evening, and that was Joseph Robinette Biden. And
very funny, very funny.
It was very funny because he said essentially that, oh, we have this dangerous rise of oligarchs controlling America, right? And you know what? Fine, I agree with you. I disagree with you on the timing of that. I feel like it's been a while coming, but yeah, it's getting worse right now. I agree with you, Joe. Here's my thing. If you think it's so dangerous, what the fuck have you been doing about it for the past 4 years? Like, stop it. Like, what is the point? If you keep telling people about how dangerous the Republicans are and then just don't do extreme shit to combat that extreme danger, you look like a passive fucking idiot. Well, either you don't know how to beat the danger, which is bad, you aren't capable of beating the danger, which is maybe worse, or, as you just said, Rio, you aren't actually trying to beat the danger, you are controlled opposition to it. And I really feel like that's an overused framework of understanding by the left. I feel like we jump to that way too quickly when analyzing the actions of Democrats. But god damn it, does that not like, that was my immediate fucking reaction, was like, this reeks of controlled opposition.
I think that Democrats know very well and oligarchs know very well that they know how to inspire the base. They saw Bernie Sanders do all of this shit and it did not go unnoticed. They ignored him in the media and all this stuff, but they all saw, holy shit, this guy's raising money for like $2 a donation or whatever. Holy crap, this guy is changing politics. They know that if they adopt progressive policies, they will have a blue wave. If they really truly wanted to win, if the party wanted to like become powerful and start winning elections, they know that adopting more progressive platforms is in fact the way to do that. They know it. The oligarchs know it. I think the party knows it. But they do not do that. They do not do the fucking thing that would make them win. That's why it looks like controlled opposition. You know what I mean? TJ, what do you think about controlled opposition? Is that too much to say?
So
TJ, before I want you to answer that question, but I want to just mention, since he brought up Bernie, a poll came out today from Morning Consult. Bernie has a 69% approval rating with a 27% disapproval rating. That's in fucking insane numbers.
Yeah.
And the everyone who's like, oh no, the Democrats are good. No, fuck you. No, it could not be more clear what the people want right now. Anyway, what were you gonna say, TJ?
Well, I don't go all in on controlled opposition. I get it. Not for like the party as a whole. I think that there are maybe some people that could apply to, but the party as a whole, I can't quite get there. Although it's getting hard to argue against it, I have to say. But it's because, well, there's a few reasons for it. The first is that as a politician, your number one goal is to get elected, right? Like that's it. Like you wouldn't be there unless you wanted that. Your number two goal is to make yourself wealthy and powerful, right? Which kind of coincide with winning. Losing doesn't do a lot for you. If you're running that it's harder to raise money when you lost, and it's harder to raise money when your party isn't in power. So what I think is that they're facing this catch-22, that they actually do want to win. And like John said, they know what's popular with the base, but they also know that the person who raises the most money almost always wins. They know that. And the easiest way to get money is to take corporate donations. And when you take corporate donations, you have to back corporate policy. And if you abandon those corporate policies, you lose the corporate donations and risk what Bernie did. And Bernie's always been an independent. He's been independent for 45 years. These folks haven't. And so if they drop out and say, well, we're not taking corporate cash, that's a big gamble. Someone else could outspend you and then they could win. I think that's actually what's going on. And also they just don't believe this. Like they don't want like you guys said, they don't want the progressive policies either. But I don't think that they actually want Republicans to win. Then you just be Republican. That'd be a lot easier, right? Than actually running as a Democrat just to get Republican policy passed.
I don't think the Democrats themselves consciously want Republicans to win. I think they're kind of like more inside of it, and they are convinced of the whole illusion of it. But I think the oligarchs themselves are okay with the Republicans winning. That's
100%.
Even the ones behind the Democratic Party, even the Democratic oligarchs. I think you're too optimistic, dude. I think I guess I'm a little bit more cynical than you when it comes to because you're kind of assuming that politicians like organically like want to go into politics to win and like do but I kind of see it like sometimes like corporations run them like players on the field. Like they almost like hire guys and have them go out like actors defending like apologists for corporations, and they'll just find some fucking weirdo and like fund him and like tell him to keep running until they have somebody like Ted Cruz who's a complete fucking psychopath. You know what I mean? So does that make sense? Am I making sense right now?
No, I mean I don't think that's. Oh, were you saying something, John?
No. I have a response, but go ahead and finish.
I just feel like you're saying that like there's these like authentic careers and they just kind of have to do these things because of pragmatism. That's kind of what you're saying. But I don't even know if the careers are fucking authentic. Do you know what I mean? That's what I'm saying.
So I don't know. You're right. I don't know that. I don't assume anyone who goes into politics, especially at that high level, automatically does so out of the goodness of their heart, right? Like I think that I think the desire for power is what they crave. That's what they want. And being in Congress or in the Senate or whatever high level politics comes with that sort of power, and that's what they need. To get that, there's only one venue, and so like it's kind of like how people wonder why everyone who works at news organizations seems to have like the same type of mindset. And it's kind of, it self-selects for those people. Those people wouldn't be there if they didn't have that mindset. And even if someone goes in with good intentions, because like obviously not everyone who gets into politics is, just a living example of the banality of evil. You can look at even like Nancy Pelosi. If you look at stuff Nancy Pelosi said in the 70s, it's very progressive. If you look at what Hillary Clinton was saying in the 90s, very progressive. And then as time goes on, I think that the system, they know, wow, if I'm going to stay here, I got to play ball, and you become the monster, whether you want to or not. That's why, like, people always like, oh, you guys should run for office and everything. We'd end up the same way. Like, we'd end up the same way, and we wouldn't be there. It's one or the other. And so I don't think it really matters, like, if they're good people on the inside or not with authenticity. I think that the system only produces one type of person.
My issue with the controlled opposition narrative is that I think it doesn't accurately reflect the incentive structures at work, because for anyone who's listening who has never heard this term before, it's something that is talked about on the left quite a bit, about how Democrats, liberals in general, are controlled opposition. They are playing a role. There isn't actually two opposing parties. There is one party with half of them playing the good guys and half of them playing the bad guys. And we're, from whichever perspective you are in America, you're rooting for one side or the other. But really, marginally things are going to change. But at the end of the day, things are going to more or less remain the same. Evidence to this theory would be when Joe Biden told donors as he was running in 2020, don't worry, guys, everything will fundamentally stay the same. He said this. This is a matter of fact, right? So I do think that a lot of times when leftists talk about it, they're a little bit more cynical. They think that this is just like one entity and another entity interacting, when in actuality, it is hundreds and honestly thousands of people at work here, all interacting with each other, all of which have their own incentive structures at play. When I will be more likely to accept that kind of analysis is when you get to the president of the United States, because the president of the United States does have the power to say, go fuck yourself. Bernie has the power to say, go fuck yourself most of the time. And he does. And when he needs to circle the wagons in order to like be able to exert power later, he will do that for the Democratic Party. But Joe Biden doesn't have any masters. Like, he can do whatever he wants. And he has chosen to operate in the way that he has. He has chosen to do this whole fucking TikTok song and dance, knowing, apparently, either knowing that this is where it would end or not knowing that this is where it would end. And both scenarios look terrible on him. Like, either he knows that at the end of the day, he's going to fold if they call his bluff, which they said they would, and that it's going to make him look really bad and it's going to hand a victory to Donald Trump, or he didn't know that they would call his bluff, and that's just fucking incompetence. So, like, I don't know, Rio. I don't think that necessarily, like what a lot of people say, like, oh, it's a uniparty, whatever. I don't think that's necessarily true. I think the world is significantly better with Democrats in charge. I think there's a lot of evidence to this point. And I think if you look at the actions of individual Democrats and individual Republicans, for that matter, such as, I know, but if you look at, like, when shit gets really, really real, occasionally they will vote their conscience. Like, for example, John McCain with the Affordable Care Act. And, that's true. You could argue that corporations have benefited from the Affordable Care Act, and that's why that ended up happening. But you do see moments of humanity. And that's why I don't think it's that conspiratorial. I think there's a lot of incentive structures at plays that happen to play Democrats the same way they play Republicans. And that's why they often tend to arrive at the same conclusions.
I think there is authenticity. I want to be clear. I do think there is authenticity. I mean, you hear like AOC talk about the consolidation of billionaires and stuff, and how they're getting, how they're, in bed with blah, blah, blah. So anyway, that's authentic. I just think that there's basically a wall that they run into on the left where they're just not allowed to be any more progressive with policy. That's all I'm saying. So
I agree.
100% true.
I think the controlled opposition definitely plays in that venue, because they're like how there's always some sort of rotating villain in the Senate that's always stopping the policies. Like, Sinema and Manchin are going to be the sacrificial lamb, saying, man, I wish I could raise minimum wage, but Manchin, what are we going to do about him? And or
Fetterman's setting himself up nice and pretty for that role.
Fetterman's the next on the agenda here, and it's that I think that there's more senators than Manchin, Sinema, and now Fetterman who have more conservative ideologies than they let on, but they don't have to say it because they know that someone else is going to step in. I 100% believe that. Yeah, they don't want universal health care either. So, that's going to get in their way for that. One of the topic, I don't think we have another time to talk about it because it may not apply anymore, but I put in the title about Red Note, so we kind of have to mention it. And so did either of you sign up for Red Note? For those of you who don't know what Red Note is like a Chinese version of TikTok, which sounds redundant, I know, but TikTok is not actually TikTok is not used in China. They use an app called Red Note. I forgot the Chinese word for it, but it translates, by the way, to Little Red Book, like Mao's Little Red Book, which is very funny. And 500,000 Americans have signed up for this app over the course of this last week. And you got to listen. I did not sign up for Red Note, primarily because I just don't feel like it. I don't feel like signing up for a brand new app that's literally foreign to me. And it's in Chinese. Like the interface is in Chinese and all. Come on, I don't want to do it that badly. But a lot of Americans have. And we'll start with you, Rio. Have you signed up for Red Book, and do you plan on it?
So I think I'm
sorry, Red Note. Red Note. I keep saying Red Book. It's Red Note. My fault.
It's okay. Yeah, it means Little Red Book, like you said. I can't remember if I made an account, but I will make an account if I haven't yet. I spent like 5 hours on it, scrolling and looking around. It's not really so much like TikTok. It's more like Chinese Pinterest, but they're trying to basically accommodate us and make it a little bit more like TikTok. There's a lot of like problems, and we can get into this whenever you want, but like the community guide the community guidelines for Red Note are literally just like the guidelines that the government gives to its citizens to in China. So you have to support socialism. Okay, you can't criticize their form of government. You can't criticize Xi. Like it's if you go and look at the community guidelines, it's pretty heavy. So the point is, it's never gonna be like TikTok. So we are like going into someone else's living room, and we're sitting down with them at dinner time, and we're kind of listening to them speak and like getting a vibe for the family. This is a whole new people. If you port over your data, your videos and your content, you're literally sending your videos to China, to their most popular social hub, to be played in their public square. Like totally different location than you. It's nothing really like this has ever happened, by the way. It's like a literal migration. It's pretty interesting, but you can't criticize stuff. So it's not like all these deconstructionist TikTokers that have been so contrarian can go over there and start doing content. You know what I mean? So I think it's cool that it's happening.
Mhm.
That's all I have to say.
Yeah, Rio, to add on to that, I agree with TJ. I'm not gonna fucking use it. Like if by some miracle it like becomes a thing, I'll use it. But like it's in fucking Chinese, bro. Like we can't get
Well, there's a lot of
critical mass of
English.
Americans
There
to
is a lot of
use.
English on there. Like there you have all these Chinese people that are like making videos. Welcome to you Americans. Please don't show your boobs. Like I seriously watched.
Don't show your boobs.
They're like, they're like, they're like, you can celebrate your body, but don't be like, crazy about it. And I'm like,
Oh,
and I'm like,
man.
I don't know if you guys know Chinese culture at all. Not that I super know it, but like I know that they're very sometimes like socially rigid about their norms. They seem to tend to be like conservative, very proper. They're a very beautiful, prideful people, prideful in a good way, like in their culture and stuff. So you go over there, dude, and you get that. They tell you what their norms are, and so they don't really tolerate a lot of this stuff. Anyway, I interrupted you, man. Keep going, John.
No, it's totally fine. And that's the cool part about this story for me is that forever, China and America have existed in walled gardens. Like there's not actually that much. The most communication you have between Chinese people and Americans are Chinese students coming here to study, and then occasionally American expats going over there to do business. But there's no sort of like when I said critical mass for a social media app, that's more than 500,000 people. That's 500 million people, But like in terms of the amount of interaction with Chinese people and Americans so far, 500,000 in the span of 24 hours is insane. And it is very interesting to see people reacting to this because they're seeing, and this is the massive fuck up by the US government, to be perfectly honest. I think that there's a tendency on the left to be like China good guy, US bad guy, and that is definitely fucking incorrect. But like Chinese people, normal guys. American people, normal guys. Like these are just normal people. And there's this idea of China, I feel like, in the average American's mind of China being this like North Korea, honestly. Like I feel like most like the average American, if you were like going to say what is China closer to, North Korea or America, they'd go North Korea. And in some ways that's the case, but if you look at like the average life of a Chinese person, it's not all that different than your or mine. And that's the problem with 500,000 Americans joining a Chinese lifestyle app is that they're seeing, oh shit, these people live a life that's virtually identical to mine with a different language. Like, that's it. And they're seeing some of the propaganda that America has exposed us to about the Chinese people to maybe be wrong. And they're getting hit with Chinese propaganda. Like, again, there is a middle ground here between the two. Both sides are bad, right? But like, yeah, humanizing the Chinese people is the last thing the American government wanted to do, and they just accidentally butt fuck themselves into it. And that is, if there is any lasting impact of this Red Note thing, I think it's a flash in the pan. I think we're gonna forget this ever happened, like 2 months from now. But it is neat. I'm enjoying seeing people's experience. Am I going to use the app? Fuck no, because I don't have the time to do social media for myself any more than I already do. But and it's not going to work for my political content. It just fucking ain't.
That's right.
But I think it's cool. I think it's a cool thing that's happening. I think it's the funniest possible outcome.
Exactly.
Banning the TikTok is for Americans to fly to, like, there's so many things that happen nowadays that it's just like, oh, if you wrote this in a movie, no one would believe it. Yeah, the app's called Mao's Little Red Book, and that's what they're choosing. Like, of fucking course it is.
It's fantastic. Hey, it is funny that like the tip of the spear that the United States government was saying why everyone needs to be afraid of TikTok is because the Chinese government is stealing your data, only to find out that 500,000 people in a couple of days said, take my data, please, Chinese government. Here it is. Hey, you can have it all. It's like, oh, they don't really care because they know their data is being stolen by someone anyway. So, well, what does it matter what country the person's in? And the thing, what is it? John was talking about how, the interface is a lot of Chinese. And Rio, you said that you actually downloaded it. You said, well, it's not all in Chinese. Rio, any Chinese is too much Chinese for your average American. They're not going to do that. They're not going to, like, it's going to look confusing and intimidating.
Americans barely understand English, Rio. We read at a 6th grade reading level. There's no way that the Chinese app is going to take off.
People are doing AI.
My fucking life. At least as it currently is. That app ain't going anywhere in America.
Yeah.
The Rio, part of the lore of this show, back before I was a regular host on the show, I was a recurring guest. And we also had fellow content creator Leah on. And it was me, Leah, John, and Erica. And Leah brought up the fact that the United States has something like a 71% literacy rate. And I remember none of us believed it. And John actually Googled it. And sure enough, like, the United States has, we were stunned. We were absolutely stunned, but it's true. Our literacy rate in this country is in the 70s. So John's right. Our English isn't great. Our Chinese isn't much better, I guarantee. And I'm going to exemplify why what we're saying is 100% true. We've been referring to it as Chinese. That is not the language. There's Mandarin, different Chinese languages. And we've just been like, Chinese. Yeah, I think the primary...
And we are the culturally respectful people.
Right, yeah. So I was going to mention that I have been to China. Between my sophomore and junior year of college, I worked in China for a few months. And like the primary dialects, I think, are Mandarin and Cantonese, I think. I mean, don't quote me on that, folks. But the interaction with people in China were fantastic. They were amazing folks. It was interesting getting used to the cultural differences. Like in China, it is not rude to point and stare at people. So if you're walking down a road anywhere and you're not a Chinese person, it's very obvious you're not. You will have dozens of people just pointing and staring at you. And you look them in the eye, they keep staring. It's like, because that's not culture. The only time I wasn't pointed at and stared at in China was this one time, this military, like Chinese military had these basketball teams. And there was a guy there who was like 6'11". And I remember walking through the only Walmart in China at the time. Everyone was pointing at him. No one was looking at me. When you had like a 6'11" dude walking around, that was pretty wild. But I wanted to talk to what John mentioned, that the conception that your average American has about China, you're right. They think it's like North Korea. They say the communist red Chinese have everyone under lock and key. There's going to be armed guards at every store. People are living. No, honestly, besides the fact that everyone was Chinese, it was hard to tell the difference, honestly, between like what life was like in the United States and what life was like in China. The first cultural shock I got was when I was in Beijing and we landed and went to this hotel. And the next morning, we got up. I was with a group of Americans, and we went downstairs to the lobby. And the host said, "Okay, so breakfast is served in that room over there. And we know you guys are American, so we prepared an American breakfast for you on the left side of the room. On the right side of the room, there's Chinese breakfast. So you guys can take your pick, whatever you want." And I'm thinking the same thing you guys are thinking right now. I have no idea what Chinese breakfast food looks like. No clue at all. And so, of course, we all went to the right side of the room to get the Chinese breakfast food. Turns out exactly the same as the Chinese food that I saw everywhere. It was like it was rice and veggies and like strips of pork and chicken. I said, I looked around to make sure it wasn't just me. We all had the same thoughts. Like, now I'm sure in Chinese it looks different. To me, it looked exactly the same. Yeah, it looked exactly the same as all the Chinese food I'd known in my life. So that was kind of disappointing, but it was a fun experience. And the propaganda, I can't remember which one of you mentioned the propaganda angle, but I saw a really great post by someone who was on Red Note where they asked a question and they said, "Hey, do Americans actually have to pay for their ambulance rides, or is that government propaganda?" Like, no, that's true. That's real. Like that, the Chinese government may lie. They're not lying about the ambulance thing. We do have to pay for our own ambulances. So yeah, the Red Note thing, I agree, John. I think it's kind of a flash in the pan, like an obvious one. Like, I don't know. I think it's an obvious one. I could be wrong. I've been wrong before, but TJ, I just don't think
it's weird how people act like we haven't seen this before, like a million
times. We see it all the time.
I swear to God, like it's just like the people who are saying, "Oh, this is gonna catch on," like I'm like, really? Like I want it beyond all God to catch on. Sure, let's do it, but like it's not, and it's not. So why are you acting like it is? This is just confusing.
I still haven't heard if people can make money on Red Note. So like if people can't make any money
can we make money anywhere else, Rio? I haven't heard.
Funny. That's funny. Yeah, it's just like, if it's not monetizable and you're doing it for the love of the game. I do think that you guys are absolutely right that the lasting effect of it will be like cross-cultural ties, because out of these 500,000 or million people, whoever sign up over the next week or so, a lot of people are going to form friendships and relationships and get to know people for years on end. And I think that's good. The more communication, like John said, the more communication we have with regular people across the world, I think the better place the world is. Unfortunately, we have a tendency to dehumanize people who aren't exactly like us. We see it every day, and this is a good step in the right direction.
Yeah.
All right. Good one.
Speaking of steps in the right direction, should we talk about the elephant in the room?
Is it the ceasefire?
It is the ceasefire, TJ.
All right. I got hot off the presses article right here about the ceasefire, because what the fuck is going on? So I'm sure you guys heard that, what was it, John, yesterday, the day before, that the Israeli government and Hamas had agreed to a ceasefire. Is that correct?
It was like reports came out like Thursday night or Tuesday night. We're talking about like it was going to be released, the pre-release of the release. And then they did the release yesterday. And then more details have been coming out, But
that's what we got here. So we are going to talk about Biden's legacy. We keep teasing it, but we actually are. But one of them that I was really fascinated to talk about Biden's legacy was with the ceasefire thing, because with Trump coming into office and the ceasefire happening 5 minutes before he does, it's like, how is this going to reflect on Biden? Like, he tried taking credit for everything, but nix all that, folks, because as of a couple hours ago, Israel, Hamas ceasefire, Netanyahu says last-minute crisis is holding up his approval. A last-minute crisis with Hamas was holding up an Israeli approval of a long-awaited agreement to pause the fighting in the Gaza Strip and release dozens of hostages. Netanyahu said on Thursday, that's today. And why the holdup? The Israeli cabinet was expected to vote on the deal today, but Netanyahu's office said they won't meet until Hamas backs down, accusing it of reneging on parts of the agreement in an attempt to gain further concessions without elaborating. It's not yet clear if Netanyahu's statements were reflected jockeying to keep his fractious coalition together, or whether the deal was at risk. A senior Hamas official said the group is committed to the agreement announced by the mediators. The agreement would bring relief to hard-hit Gaza Strip, where Israel's offensive has reduced areas to rubble and displaced 90% of the population of 2.3 million people. So maybe we, pop the bottles a little too early on the Gaza ceasefire, and the Biden administration is ending in an embarrassing fashion on every possible level. It's just incompetence all the way down. So we'll go to you first, John. What do you think about this update?
There's so many things here. I'm going to discuss the Israel-Palestine side of it first, and then we're going to loop it back to the Biden-Trump side of it. But from the Israel-Palestine side of it, yeah, as soon as this report came out on Tuesday, I was like, all right, that's fine. I'll believe it when I see it. Yeah. And my reaction today is, all right, that's fine. I'll believe it when I see it. Because, like, let's be clear here. It's not like this is some new deal. This is the same deal that Joe Biden, like, announced to the nation. Oh, I've reached a deal, like, fucking months ago. Mm-hmm. And it is structurally identical. There might be minor details that are different, which is important to a deal like this, but still, basically the same thing. And it's like, well, I didn't believe it when he said it then, and I was right. And I'm not going to believe it now until I see it actually stop. And even then, this ceasefire deal, and it really pisses me off how the media is reporting on this. Not that the media has reported on this whole thing fairly at all, but like, it's not like an end. It's just, okay, we're going to basically return to the status quo before Israel was bombing the shit out of Gaza, where they were only blockading Gaza. And it's like, okay, that doesn't end the fucking conflict. As Rio, you were mentioning before we hopped on live, that Blinken said that Hamas has already recruited to replace all of its, killed members.
100%.
100%. And you know what? Maybe they have, maybe they haven't. I don't fucking know. I'll believe anything that Blinken says. It's all equally potentially a lie. But like, I believe it because that's the way terrorist organizations have worked for my entire lifetime, is that when the big bad fucking state comes in and kills a bunch of people, well, you know what? The terrorist organizations go, well, thank you for the free recruitment material. Because fucking of course they would. Because I just want to, anyone who's disagreeing with me right now, I want to just play out how this works and tell me where you disagree, right? So Israel doesn't want Hamas to remain in control of Gaza. Cool. So what do we have? We have a fucking election. All right. Who do you think the people of fucking Gaza are going to vote for? Are they going to vote for the people who say, hey, let's play nice with the people who just destroyed our entire fucking territory and killed tens of thousands of innocent people? No, they're going to vote for people who fucking hate Israel, because of course they would. I would too. If I had my fucking entire family blown up around me. Like, that's just natural human reaction. It will just continue. Like, this is just a continuation. And yeah, I'll be like, if they stop dropping the bombs, if we go back to where it was before, I'll be happy, I guess, that less people are dying. But is anything resolved? No, not at all. We're just continuing the same shit as we were before. I don't know. Did you have any joy, Rio, when you heard this this headline, or was it kind of, do you feel the same way as I did?
Well, I mean, it's no surprise that Israel is sabotaging an agreement. Like, have they ever not fucking done that? It's the most consistent thing in the world, and it's funny because they have consistently embarrassed Biden. I mean, don't you guys think? Like, he's tried at every turn for the last year to, like, make things look as good as possible. Oh, 2 days it will happen. Oh, in 2 weeks something will happen. Oh, and it's like they're always trying to, this has just been a PR nightmare for Biden the whole time. And fittingly, that he's leaving office on this note where Israel makes him look like a fucking idiot. So, yeah, it's there's no end in sight. We could talk about, this could also segue into Hexeth, because we could talk about like warmongering and what Trump is gonna do, but yeah, I don't know. That's all I have. It's just depressing. So embarrassing for Biden.
When this came out that there was an agreement that Israel accepted the terms of the ceasefire, the first question that came to my mind was, well, why? Why would they do that? What could possibly be in it for them to say, oh, this entire time we've been doing this bombing and saying that we want to, wipe Hamas off the map, and that we're hinting very strongly that we're going to just, settle the Gaza Strip and keep it for ourselves. And now now this, okay, well, just kidding. We didn't mean any of it. That didn't make any sense at all. Like what, you think Donald Trump cares if they did that? And a lot of people are saying that they did this to specifically make Biden lose. And it's like, okay, if they did, then that just reinforces what I said. Why would they stop now? If you did all of this to make Biden lose, why bother? Just keep going like you wanted to. Now this makes a lot more sense where they're backing out of it for reasons. And like John said, even if they did sign it, what would make us think that they would actually stop in the future? And John, you pointed out,
not the future, the present. They killed. They killed. I'm sorry. Al Jazeera reports they killed 87 Palestinians today. Today.
Yeah.
21 of them children, 25 of them women.
Yeah. it's I saw a video about this yesterday, and it was incredibly prescient, where they said, they showed this video of a bunch of people in Gaza, a bunch of Palestinians celebrating the call for the ceasefire. And the person said that it was actually very distressing watching that video because, all throughout Gaza, there's over 1 million people, celebrating this. And he said, a lot of those folks will not be alive tomorrow. They said they're celebrating, but Israel is going to, and John's right, they absolutely did. And I wanted to pull up just a Hall of Fame tweet. Like when the world is burned down and there's nothing left, I hope that we have monuments built to these, tentpole tweets that have carried us a lot of year. But this one, I'm not a political expert, but if you eliminated Hamas and killed my whole family in the process, my first move would be to start Hamas too. That's what happened. That's exactly what happened with the 100% retention or recruitment rate and replacement rate for Hamas. And this, once again, I don't know if we'll actually do the Biden legacy thing because we keep referring to it, at the end of every segment.
We're going to. I'm like holding back a lot of my Biden takes. So, like, I'm going to have to release them.
All right.
We have to go another 3 hours to do so.
It's building up.
It's going to happen. Joe, you're not getting away that easy, Joe Biden. You only got a couple days in office. We're coming for you, bro. But there was a poll that was released. Let me see. It was a YouGov poll, I think. And, damning new poll shows price that Harris paid for backing Israeli genocide in Gaza. And a YouGov poll backed by the Institute for Middle East Understanding Policy Project released Wednesday, showing that among the 19 million people who voted for Biden in 2020 but did not vote in 2024, nearly a third of them named Israel's U.S.-backed war on Gaza as the top reason for staying home. The top reason these non-voters cited, above the economy at 24% and immigration 11%, was Gaza at 29%. What was this all for, Joe Biden? What was this all for? You stood steadfast by Israel's side with an indefensible assault against innocent people in Gaza and stuck by it, only to be played by Netanyahu the whole time and tanking your vice president. Maybe she would have lost anyway, but you didn't make it easier for what? Like what did anyone gain out of this, including yourself? Like what did he get out of this? I just don't understand. And so I just want to bring those two up. But what do you think, John?
I think so. First of all, I hate having to explain to grown-ass adults that when you unjustly murder someone's family, they're going to want to murder you back. Mm-hmm. Not all the time, but you do it enough times, like on the scale of tens of thousands, you're just going to make a lot of people want to kill you. And it blows my mind how many fucking, again, grown adults don't seem to understand that tweet that you just posted. Because to me, I read that and I go, yeah, I would have understood this as a fucking kindergartner, and through the rest of experiences in my life have only proven to me that is 100% correct. Whether we're talking about fucking international terrorist groups or we're talking about interpersonal fucking relationships, if you do something which hurts innocent people, people are going to want to hurt you. and I say this and it sounds dumb. I feel like I'm degrading myself by saying it because I'm like, oh, well, our audience must clearly understand this. But apparently most people fucking don't, because they'll still sit here and tell you, hey, yeah, this is what we need to do. We need to murder tens of thousands of people or else Israelis will never be safe. And it's like, no, that's what's making the Israelis not safe. Jewish people are far safer here in the United States of America than they are in Israel, partially because the people we're murdering are far enough away that they can't hurt us. Let me rephrase the statement that I was just about to make. But it's just very frustrating. And in terms of, there's so many angles here. In terms of the the politics of it all, it just seems like the worst of all possible worlds for Joe Biden.
Yeah.
You deal with, you spend your fucking life dealing with this for a year. This is going to be an integral part of your legacy as president. And you didn't pursue more aggressive options, right? Until the very end, when Donald Trump, I don't know what made this happen exactly, but like Donald Trump gets to claim victory. Donald Trump gets to claim he did this, that Israel is doing this because they're afraid of the strongman option, which is going to teach everyone the worst possible lesson out of all of this. It not only gives your opponent a victory, but as Rio, you alluded to earlier, it feeds the fucking warmongers, because it's like, oh, what we really need is strength. We need to show these people that we're strong, when in reality, killing people just leads to more killing. So it's really upsetting. I don't know why Joe Biden did what he did, and it honestly exposes the entire fucking rot of liberalism in general, because you have one side that actually says they believe that, you know, might equals right, that we need to exhibit strength, that we need to hurt innocent people to display our dominance. The other side wholeheartedly believes it, and they say it with their fucking chest. Liberals say they don't believe it, but then act as if they do. Like, if you were to look at what Joe Biden has done and compare it to what Donald Trump would have done, it's probably the same exact fucking thing. But Joe Biden doesn't say it with his chest. And so he just looks fucking weak. He looks completely ineffectual. And I believe that Donald Trump didn't actually play too much of a factor into this. I believe that Netanyahu mostly wanted to hurt Biden and was waiting for it. I don't think Donald Trump's strength is what changed people's minds here. But Joe Biden's weakness certainly fucking did. And I just don't understand what the plan was. Like, I don't understand how this is a desirable outcome for Joe Biden or the Democratic Party. It just seems to be a win for Donald Trump and the Republicans across the board, no questions asked, regardless of how much he actually impacted this.
I always think that the real story here is voter suppression. And it seems like the Democrats somehow like want to bury their head in the sand, and they don't want to take any accountability for voter suppression. And then when Kamala Harris can just literally continued the same policies that Joe Biden, a continuation of Joe Biden's policies with Gaza and Israel, like, people were so deeply disappointed. Yeah. And they were de-energized. I think the Democratic Party knows on some sort of subconscious level that they have to energize their base, but they weren't energizing their base. They were and it's like they're suppressing all young voters, and then the voters don't turn out. And it wasn't Jill Stein. It fucking wasn't. They were literally just suppressed. So Democrats are remarkably good at suppressing their own fucking base. It's incredible, man. And you know and here's the other tragic theme, TJ. Like, we were talking about like morality and authenticity earlier. There are moments in U.S. history where we do moral things as a country. Yeah. Take down this wall, Mr. Gorbachev. Like, there was like some sort of spiritual swelling that gripped the nation, and like he said the right thing, and that was the right thing to do. That was like a moment in human history. And there was a moment here that everybody was hoping that Kamala Harris would change courses and the Democrats would do something maybe a little bit moral, you know, and they fucking never did. And so it just, voter suppression was the obvious result. You know what I mean? Anyway, that's it.
Yeah. It's like the really sad part about this is that, like what Rio said, there have been times in American history where, you know, whether the reason was noble or not, we did the right thing, right? Yep. You know, ending slavery was the right thing. You know, defeating the Nazis was the right thing. We have had moments where it's like, okay, you know, Yeah, Civil Rights Act. We did the right thing. Of course, we've never done the perfect thing. Nobody's perfect. But it's like, okay, on the scale of good and bad, this surprisingly lands squarely in the good category. And there's a price to pay for doing what's right. Like, we know that. Yeah, it's not always going to work out in your favor to make the moral decision. And that's what makes the whole presidency of Joe. Let's go right into it. The legacy of Joe Biden and what makes it so bad is because, but let's say Biden thought this. I'm not saying this was his thought process, but let's give like the best case scenario in this is that his thought process was, wow, this genocide is actually bad. Once again, giving a lot of credit. So this genocide is bad. Israel is clearly in the wrong. However, going against Israel and saying, I'm going to withhold weapons. I can't, send in troops to stop your genocide, but I can take your weapons away. And you're not going to do it with my help. Not going to happen. If I do that, I'm going to lose all this support, and I'm going to lose, or Harris is going to lose, and I can't do that. Let's say that's what he thought. That turned out to not even be the case. So not only did he back the genocide, he lost, or the Democrats lost anyway. So you let all those people die for no reason, reason other than the fact that you wanted it to happen. Like, that's the only conclusion I can come to. And that is what makes it incredibly dark here, because, no one put a gun to Biden's head and said, you must back Israel's obvious slaughter. You could have done the right thing. Doing the right thing and losing would have been the noble move. Instead, you did the wrong thing and lost anyway. Just darkly sad.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, TJ. I don't know if it was Tuesday or last week that I said this, but Americans have become so used to like customer service speak, HR speak, that we hate it. And I'm realizing here that for a long time that wasn't the case. For most, for not my life, but for the average American, anyone older than me, they at least spent a significant amount of their life at a time where the majority of interactions you had were authentic human connections, where you talk to someone, there was a reasonable expectation that they were giving it real to you. And those were most of interactions that you had in your life. But now most of our interactions, at least for a large percentage of Americans, are online. Or at the workplace. And we never know when someone's being authentic or not. At the workplace, no one's ever fucking authentic because it's the workplace. I feel tell me if I'm wrong, you guys are a little bit older than me, but like my entire life, at least as a professional working adult, has been in a, corporatized, HR-ified world, where the corporation's like, we're a family here. We care about you. And then, fuck you. You're laid off. No notice. Fuck you. And like, that's just what you expect. But I feel like it used to just be fuck you. Like, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like that's like talking with a lot of like my older relatives and stuff. It's like, the boss just said, fuck you. You have to show up. That's what you do. And it's like, they were at least authentic. And now we just get inauthentic all the time. And if Joe Biden said, look, guys, this is what I wanted to do. This is where I think I went wrong. This is what I think the right thing to do was. This is how we tried to accomplish that goal. Even if I disagreed with him, even if I thought he was wrong in his goals or his strategies, if he authentically communicated with me what he was trying to do, I'd like him a hell of a lot more. A hell of a lot more. Even like, take Bernie. I agree with Bernie on a lot, but there's things I substantially disagree with Bernie on, but I fucking trust that he's being authentic with me.
Yeah.
And that matters to people.
Yep.
Because we are constantly inundated with bullshit all the fucking time. We might not be able to read, but we can tell when you're bullshit. Right? Like, and that should be fucking plastered on every office in the Democratic Party, because that's the fucking problem. They're like, we're just going to keep lying to them like we always did, and they're going to be dumb like they always are, and they just expect us to fall in line. And it doesn't work anymore. And Donald Trump figured that out 8 fucking years ago.
Yes.
And for whatever reason, the Democrats completely have fucked this up.
The authenticity thing, I talk about that all the time, that authenticity gets you really far in life. It just will. It gets you really far.
Another thing, TJ, where you're like, oh yeah, in real life this works at a high success rate, even when I'm in the wrong. And for whatever reason, they can't apply it to like anything.
It's so useful. And like, I mean, I figured this out pretty early on because like I don't like being deceitful, right? I guess some people just do. And so I was like, yeah, if I just say, hey, this is what I think, and I'm going to act this way, that's my goal. You may not agree with it, but people respect the hell out of that. They may not like you, or they may disagree with you, but they're like, well, you know what? At least he says what he thinks. This is actually, like you mentioned, I have a hard time getting this through to liberals. Oh, shit, I wrote something down. I forgot to mention, John, you talked about liberalism and how liberals will say they support the good thing, but in practice actually do the bad thing. What we've learned over the last few years is that liberalism is dead. You are either a fascist or a socialist. Like, take your pick. Those are the ones that are going to win. So, sticking with the liberalism thing is kind of a lost cause. But the thing with Trump is that I tell this to liberals all the time is that, listen, the reason Trump resonates with people is because he has the air of authenticity. There's no chance that Trump is going to say, well, this is a fine gentleman and we have disagreed. No, he's like, nope, I despise that guy. Fuck him. I hate him. And like to an annoying extent, like to a petty and childish extent, I saw him post something today and I got to read it. Here we go. Trump wrote that as of today, the incoming Trump administration has hired over 1,000 people for the United States government. They are outstanding in every way, and you will see the fruits of their labor over the coming years. We will make America great again, and it will happen very quickly. In order to save time, money, and effort, it would be helpful if you would not send or recommend to us people who worked with or are endorsed by Americans for No Prosperity, headed by Charles Koch, Dumb as a Rock, John Bolton, Bird Brain, Nikki Haley, Mike Pence, disloyal warmongers, Dick Cheney and his psycho daughter Liz, Mitt Romney, Paul Ryan, General Mark Miley, he is a general, James Mattis, Mark Esper, or any of the other people suffering from Trump derangement syndrome, more commonly known as TDS. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Now, of course, that is, a childish rant or whatever. But when you read it, you don't even have to know who it came from. So, that's Donald Trump. That's Donald Trump right there. That's how he thinks, and he says what he thinks, and it's awful. But people like the fact that he says what he thinks. He doesn't need to be truthful. This is also, John, you talked about personal interactions. It was a good point because I thought about this a long time, like a lot longer than I'm comfortable admitting. But you ever sit down and look at the state of the world and have an honest conversation with yourself? It's like, why am I not a con man? What is wrong with me? Why am I slogging away with an honest living when there's just money to be, people are lining up to give you their money and their wealth and their attention for just slop? And then I started thinking about this, John. It's like, we all live our lives with the tacit assumption that the person in front of us is telling the truth, right? Like, you have to go out of your way to look really skeezy and deceitful. And honestly, 90% of the time, they are telling you the truth. They have a reason to lie. But if you just make a living out of lying, you can trick people as long as you seem authentic. Like, being a good liar is very difficult. That's why people don't do it. But we could. I know we all could, but we decide not to. So I don't really know. I don't really know where to. I wrote down military bases and destruction. I don't know what that even refers to. Go ahead,
TJ. I want to answer that question. Not that it's relevant to politics at all, but I do have a very serious answer to the question that you posed, since you thought about it so much. Because I've also thought the same thing.
Right?
Because it's like, we'd be very good at it. Like, we'd be incredibly good at it. And the real answer to the question is a couple things. A, just the amount of work that it would take to successfully live a lifestyle where I'm conning people on a regular basis. Because here's the thing, it does shut out certain avenues of life. And you have to be ready to burn it all down and restart if things go wrong, which they are going to eventually. You can survive that and be still very fruitful with it. But like, that's difficult. And it is much easier for me to con employers in email jobs because I speak well and can communicate things clearly and know the bare minimum level of effort that I need to put in order to retain my job and look good at it. Like, I am a con man, but like I'm doing it in a way that's socially justifiable. Like
Yeah.
that's what I'm in marketing, bro. That's what I fucking do. I convince people to give people money that they really otherwise wouldn't have. Like, it is what I do. I just do it in a socially acceptable manner.
Rio, what about you? Why are you not a con man?
Rio's too
Why
authentic.
am I not a
Rio
con man?
be a con man. I cannot see Rio having the I don't know, the lack of scruples.
Do you realize what you're saying, John? You're just describing why he'd be a perfect con man.
Yeah,
but if he had, but here's the like, he seems like genuine. I don't know if he's conning me right now. I would be conned. He'd be very good at it.
I'm really fucking good at it, dude. I'm actually a Trump supporter.
He works for that. He's the controlled opposition.
I'm a Second Amendment activist. We can talk a little bit about Biden's legacy. I don't know if you guys want to like keep coming back to that or whatever.
We everything you have on Biden's legacy, push, and that'll be like the last like 45 minutes of our show.
Rio, you're not getting out of this question. Why are you not a con man? You definitely died.
Yeah, that was a daring not answer.
Now I'm curious. Now, yeah.
Okay. You know what? So I used to be way into Dave Ramsey. Okay.
Oh boy, I can't wait to hear this.
People have a phase where you kind of come out of the working class, you've worked every fucking job, you've done the trades, you've done the certification courses, you've done college, you've done the entry level shit, you've done the skilled labor, you've been a private contractor, you've even gone into the fucking arts. You've done all of corporate America, you've worked, and finally you're like, I want to figure out how capitalism really works. I want to make some fucking money and be rich. Okay? So then you start reading Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Yep.
4-hour work week, Think and Grow
Millionaire
Rich,
mindset.
Millionaire Mindset, Richest Man in Babylon, and then eventually you get to Dave fucking Ramsey, okay? Where you just need to come to Jesus and pay your bills and tighten your belt and just pay all your debtors. So it's like, okay, but then you start to feel like something is wrong with David Ramsey.
Yeah.
Something's fucking wrong. There's some really fake, almost Mormon feeling shit about Dave Ramsey. Okay, I don't know if that makes sense to you, but there's a fakeness in Mormonism that you can feel, that you can sense. There's a fakeness in Dave Ramsey. Okay, then I say, okay, well, real estate investing is what I'm going to focus on, right? And then later I'll learn about the stock market. And I wanted to become a successful real estate investor. Okay. Mm-hmm. Housing for profit. That's the reason that 95+% of millionaires in the US are millionaires, and I'm talking 95+% real estate. They're landlords. Most of the people in Congress are all landlords. Most of the senators are landlords. They're technically landlords because they own a bunch of fucking people's houses. The point that I'm trying to make with all of this is like, you go from the working class and then you go into the capitalist class, and guess what? It's all still fucking fake. Mm-hmm. And you're like, this is kind of fucking immoral. Like, you go to this realm of investing, you go to this realm of investing, and you see that it's all kind of really morally bankrupt. So I could have been rich, guys. That's what I'm saying. Like, I could be fake and be like, all right, I'm just going to make a shit ton of money. I had a friend that was buying up like $20,000 houses in Louisiana, like little ghetto houses. The whole neighborhood was poor working black people. Like, there were nobody in the neighborhood except for poor black people. And he told me this. He told me this is Louisiana, deep in Louisiana. So he told me this, that he specifically went to this neighborhood for that reason. And the houses were so cheap, and he goes, dude, I buy a $20,000 house or a $29,000 house, and my mortgage payment's $250, bro. He said that, and I'm like, okay, well, what do you charge them rent? He's like $1,400. So he knows that this is the poorest demographic. Ooh. He knows that they're working their whole life away, and he's getting over $1,000 cash flow on their rent every month
for nothing.
That's the most predatory capitalism shit I've ever seen in my fucking life. But could I have done that? Yeah. And that would be me fake, being fake as fuck. Like, that would be me being a con man. and I just couldn't. I was like, I would rather be a poor YouTuber, go back to being a poor YouTuber, than be a rich, investor. So that's my spiel about like, yeah, I could be a con man, but could I really? I don't know. I would go insane. So
Rio, I gotta say, you don't deserve to be a poor YouTuber. You just spun "Can I Be a Con Man" into a very clear and approachable and understandable critique of being a landlord in general. That was fucking impressive. You should be a rich YouTuber, my friend.
a rich YouTuber.
Yeah. Stay at it, man. Stay at it. Yeah. I have faith in you. I want to bring up too. Remind me of that about being successful in social media. That's something I want to say about that later. But that's a really good point. That what it comes down to, like, why we aren't con men, really, at the end of the day, is for our morals and our scruples. Honestly, like that's really it. That there is a I don't know if you guys heard of the '90s Batman the Animated Series that came out. It was a fantastic show, and there, yeah, there was Fox. The one that was Fox. The one from the early '90s or mid '90s. Anyway, there is a character who the Riddler kidnaps because the guy had screwed the Riddler over while he was at work. While he was Edward Nygma, he made this video game that made millions of dollars for the company, and the Riddler kidnaps him. Batman and Robin rescue him. And at the end of the episode, Batman and Robin are talking to each other, and Robin says, "Well, the Riddler got away, and we rescued the guy he kidnapped, but I don't feel great about this because the guy that Riddler kidnapped is garbage. Like, the guy really did steal millions of dollars from him. I understand why the Riddler wanted to kidnap him. And he seems like he got rescued and he has his money back and he's fine." And Batman says, "Yeah, but he's not going to be sleeping well at night knowing that Riddler is out there." And then it cuts to the guy like looking through his like windows, and he's locking all his doors and he's cowering and laying in bed. And then Batman says, "What is a good night's sleep worth? How much would you pay for a good night's sleep?" There's a riddle for you. And that's what it comes down to with us. We would not be able to sleep at night if we were exploiting people, if we were fantastically wealthy, but we knew we were making it, like your friend Rio, by off the backs of working class folks who can barely survive. There is not a check big enough for me to want to do that. It's just not there. So that's what it comes down to for me. Yeah.
It's impossible. You can't do it. I don't know. For some of us, we're like too, I don't want to sound, this sounds really arrogant, but we're like too conscious for that shit. Like our sense of like empathy or whatever it is too big.
I will go with a slight disagreement here. I'm not speaking for you guys. You guys can, operate however you want. But I know for me personally, I do think about this a lot. Mm-hmm. And I don't necessarily think it's the morals. Because I do immoral shit all the fucking time. And
True.
I'm not talking about like, I'm fucking out here murdering people, but like I will definitely, if it is convenient enough for me, put my morals to the side and do the thing I know is wrong. And I think we all do that. I doubt there's too many Jesus of Nazareths going around just fucking living their moral life to a fucking strict code. But like, for me, it's that kind of more what TJ said is how much is a good night's sleep worth to you? I'm just not motivated by the money. I'm not motivated. Like the money that I could get by being less moral just doesn't feel like it would be worth it to me. Because it's not even the good night's sleep. Like, it just genuinely is a practical thing of it's a little more difficult. And I would rather do the easy thing that keeps me, gives me a good night's sleep and doesn't give me these obscene riches than I would, anything else. It's like my job, it's not fucking moral. Like, it's not like what I do. It doesn't make me feel good about myself. It just doesn't make me feel bad enough about myself for all of the things that.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Like there is, I'm not going to sit here and act like I can't be bought. I can be fucking bought. For course, by the way, it's just check seems to be lost in the mail again. Just saying. But like and I think that when we think about it, the reason I'm kind of pushing back on this narrative is that I feel like a lot of times we think about actions as morally good and morally bad when that's not really the fucking case, because that in a nutshell leads to a lot of very bad things if you're using that level of analysis to go about the world. The people who are doing the bad things must be doing so because they're bad people, because I am a good person and that's why I do good things.
Yeah, that's true.
And
that's
not to say you guys are like that, but I feel like sometimes that analysis is true, but oftentimes it isn't accurate and it leads to bad conclusions.
So do you think oh fuck, I just forgot what I was gonna ask.
This is a fun conversation. I didn't have this conversation on my bingo card, but this is a fun one today.
It's an arbitrary limit as to how far you're going to go. It's like there's no ethical consumption under capitalism.
Mm-hmm.
There's very few ethical ways to actually make money too under capitalism as an extension.
Being a creator is an ethical way. Like Patreon is completely ethical. I was thinking about this, dude. Patreon is some of the most ethical money because you're sharing your flow. You're sharing your gifts, your talents, your passion. You're sharing. So it's the most authentic form of labor. Yeah. And then you're asking for them to pay you for it. It's perfect. It's not capitalism at all. You're completely owning the product of your labor. But you, John, you're saying basically it's like incentives is what you're saying. Like,
yeah, because I bet you, yeah, you wouldn't buy that $20,000 fucking house and mooch off of that, but like if you could do the same thing and be absolutely sure you or any of your family would never have to worry about money ever again.
So that's actually
I would do it. I would do it in a heartbeat.
So that's a good point, because what you mentioned, John, is how you're not motivated by the money necessarily. And I felt that a lot because of the 7 deadly sins, greed is the one I understand the least. I really don't. Yeah. And I'm
all the way in on, but greed doesn't do it for me.
Oh, trust. Yeah. Lust, sloth, gluttony, pride.
Gluttony, and I don't mean just like in like food, but like, yeah, if something's in front of me that I want, I'll glutton that shit right down my throat. But like the greed, the holding it. The having the money, having the cake doesn't make sense to me. I just want to eat it.
Exactly. Oh, that's great. That's great. That's really good. That pride is my deadly sin. I have,
Yeah, we know, TJ.
Yeah, right. My head can't fit through the door. Yeah, I'm very open about that. Greed, I don't get. And I think it's both of you kind of alluded to this about like whether or not you need the money and how that shapes your mind. So I didn't grow up poor at all. And I wasn't rich. My dad was in the military or whatever, but we were always comfortable. And dad was a small business owner when I was like in 8th or 9th grade. And so I was always, I never wanted for anything. So now as an adult, I'm living a comfortable life myself. John and I talk about this sometimes, like where you put yourself like economically. And I always was like, I'm not rich, but I might as well be, is how I put it. In that I never worry about my bills being paid, which is like all the peace of mind you want. And if I want to buy something, I just do. I don't really think about it. So the idea of like, I need to fuck people over to have more money that I don't need makes no sense to me. It really doesn't. I don't understand. Yeah. Like if I was worried about the survival of like my kids or my family or whatever, yeah, all right, I'll cut corners all day long because better them than me, honestly. It's like I need to take care of my people, and capitalism does drive you to do that. But since I'm not in that position, I guess I have the luxury of not having to worry about that and not understanding greed. I don't know. That's just how I look at it, because if I like did like your buddy Rio was like, oh man, look at this. I'm quintupling my investment here every month. They're just sending in all this cash and everything. I wouldn't like that. It's like, I don't need this money and I know what it's doing to these folks, and my life isn't that much better. Like I'm still essentially the same person. I just have more money now, and I'm not motivated by that.
It was a 21-year-old kid, and he had like
40... already. Wow.
Whew. Yeah, bro. And he had like 45 of these houses.
Where do you get the money?
So he just kept rolling. If you buy a house, after a couple of years, you can refinance it, pull money back out, buy another house. Mm-hmm. Then you refinance that one and pull. And so he was just doing it, and he got faster and faster and faster. It's just a series of financial tricks, to be honest, and tax loopholes, until you have this 21-year-old partying college student with 45 houses of poor families. And the guy was a millionaire already. And he was just doing this shit in different communities. And I was just so blown away by that. It's crazy.
Oh, I don't know. All right, that was good. That was good, folks. That was good. Really impromptu segment. Yeah. Right. I wanted to I wanted to bring something up. I couldn't really fit in the conversation here, but John, you had talked about your bosses, and like in the past, if people's bosses were less, corporate-y in their speak and more authentic and everything, and you asked what our experience was, and I was thinking, well, I was in the military, and those folks weren't like corporate speaky at all. They're a little bit today. In the past, they weren't that way. Like over the last 5 years, the military has become more professional. But even when I had joined, it was still, swearing and calling people queers and stuff. Like that's just how it was. And I do have to say, though, that I remember talking to our battalion executive officer, and I was speaking to him about, his career and everything. And he said that he was in the Army for a few years, and he got out and went into the civilian world, and he came back to the Army, which is kind of rare, right? Like it happens, but you're like, once people are out, it's hard to get back in. They're usually injured and stuff, and it's the whole process. And it's like, well, why'd you do that? He says, well, the reason I did is because the leadership of the Army actually does care about you. It's hard to, it's shocking to hear this. It actually is shocking to hear this, but
the fact that I understand exactly what he's saying and how shocking it is to hear that is a really interesting feeling.
Here's what he pointed out is
I've never heard that before in my whole life.
But it makes sense. Makes sense. Finish the statement, TJ.
Here's what I'm saying is that let's say you are a squad leader in the Army, right? You're a sergeant, and you've got, 8 people that you're directly responsible for. And one of them is trying to make sergeant. And if you're graded as a leader on the performance of your subordinates, right? So if your subordinate is, getting drunk and beating his wife and failing his qualifications, that's going to reflect on you as a leader. And so you make damn sure that this person has taken their classes, this person is training, this person's in shape, this person is like, you do counselings once a month to make sure that everything's all right with their family and their finances. You make sure they are squared the fuck away. When they have a dental appointment, you say, did you go to your dental appointment? Yeah, you make sure all this is taken care of. Conversely, you also want this person to succeed themselves, because if your soldier makes sergeant, they just move them out of the section and make them so they're not competition for you anymore. It's like, hey, because my soldier made sergeant, that means you're really good. We're going to give you a promotion. But in the corporate world, it doesn't work that way, because your boss doesn't really want you to rival them, because they're not just going to move you. You're going to be their competition once they get promoted. And so the Army was different that way. And that I got to say, I never had a commander or a executive that wasn't deeply interested in making my career a success. Like they would go out of their way and say, hey, we need to send you to these schools. We need to train you here, because it made them look good too. Now, once again, not everyone has this experience. I understand. But for the most part, people in the military, they know what I'm saying, that your boss, now that doesn't mean they're nice to you. It doesn't mean that they like you, but they will make sure that you're professionally squared away, because it makes them look good too. It's a weird thing, but it is absolutely true in the military. I just want to bring that up. You can see why I didn't talk about it in the last segment. It doesn't really fit anywhere, but I just want to bring that with John asking about how it was, in the days and before now we were working.
The more and more I think about this, TJ, like I'm not someone who often says I feel like I have the silver bullet right answers. I'm very much like someone. No, I will say I have the right answers, but I often say like, hey, there's like so much nuance here. There's like all of these different competing factors, but I have like been developing ever since, and even before the loss, but like ever since then, that like this authenticity thing is at the fucking core of a lot of our problems on an interpersonal level. And what you're saying though, TJ, like you're in the military. Like this is literally a thing you're signing up for, knowing they could send you to fucking die. Mm-hmm. And that is true. And yet this person had this experience where they're like, you know what? I just feel that the people who are willing to send me to die care more about me than this corporate world does. And it's true.
It's true.
100% true. They definitely like, and you're right. It is an incentive structure thing, TJ. But also, like, think about the military. There's obviously you can start at different points, but everyone's got to roll through the shit. in the military. You know, like there's no one in senior levels of military leadership that didn't have to start relatively low down and have to experience everything. No one just gets hired as the fucking general of the United States Army. You have to go through the shit. As you were alluding to that, Rio, your buddy didn't do anything. He just bought a couple houses, did some financial tricks, and became a millionaire. And you know what? He can probably parlay that into a fucking board seat somewhere and be in charge of this company, even though he never fucking worked a day in his life. He's now in charge of this corporation, and he doesn't give a flying fuck about the people working for it. He just cares about the numbers at the end of the day and how it affects him. And that's a problem that we all suffer from every day. Every single person in America suffers from that on some level. And when we see it reflected back to us in our politicians, we fucking hate them. And that, to me, more than anything else, is why Donald Trump appeals to so many Americans. Yes, some of them like him because he's an asshole. But I do think that part of the world is pretty small. And I think most of people like him because he's authentic. And when Democrats do things that are inauthentic, it turns people the fuck off. The person, again, like I said it as a joke, but you know, it's kind of true. It doesn't matter whether Joe Biden is right and Democrats are right. It doesn't matter if their policy is actually improving people's lives, because they're fucking lying. And they are assuming that we just shouldn't care because that's what they've always done. And that is going to turn me off more than your fucking tax policy. It really is. As someone who fucking cares about this, I get more pissed about what you just fucking did with TikTok. I guess that did personally affect me, so never mind. But like, I get more pissed about like what you fucking lied and manipulated everyone with Gaza than I do about the actual fucking ramifications of what you did and the thousands of lives that it cost. And yeah, like morally, that I don't feel good about myself for that. But if I just judge my own just fucking knee-jerk reaction, that's the kind of shit that gets my fucking heart beating and makes me want to punch you in the face. And that's just reality. Like, it just is. And I'm someone who does care. So imagine someone who doesn't give a shit about the children dying in Gaza or hasn't even fucking heard about it. They're still going to hear you fucking lie to them and assume that they should be okay with it. And that's going to piss them off. And that I feel like does really get at the heart of what a lot of our problems are in this country. And, you know, honestly, like the first world in general.
Hard agree. Once again, another good one. One thing I want to tack on and add, because like we got to go to the Biden legacy thing. We have to. We've been alluding to it too hard. You guys ever see Hot Tub Time Machine? You guys ever watch that movie? It's better than it sounds. Like the movie sounds like ridiculous, or whatever. But
I watched it a long time ago.
I watched like, isn't there like 3 of them, or at least 2 of them?
Oh, maybe there's a second one. I think I remember there being a second one.
Yeah.
The only reason I brought it up is because like when they're in the present, there's a guy who works at the hotel with no arm. He only has one arm. And they go back in time to the same hotel and they meet the guy and he has 2 arms. And so then like they see him by a wood chipper and he's like falling in like, and then he gets away and he still has both arms. And there's a running gag throughout the entire movie where he keeps almost losing his arm. They get all excited that it doesn't happen. So that's us with the Biden legacy thing. We keep teasing it. We'll get to it eventually, folks. It's going to happen.
But first we have to tell this anecdote about Hot Tub Time Machine.
It's like, and the social media arrogance. I wanted to bring that up with Rio talking about, you know, ego and pride and everything like that. One thing I was talking about with TikTok coming to a close is I'm seeing a lot of people giving like goodbye messages and everything. And a lot of them are saying that, you know, when I first started making social media content, I never expected my account to blow up and get big. I don't fucking believe you. Everyone who says this, I think you're lying. I do. Because to be a content creator on social media, you need a massive ego. It has to be huge. You need to think, not only do I have good ideas, but everyone needs to hear them and see my face while I say them. Like that person that does this consciously is not thinking, oh, shucks, I'm sure no one will like this. No, you knew people would. Like I say, when I started doing this, I told John this, I knew it was going to take off. I knew it. Like I had no doubt in my mind. I thought that, well, I don't know what I'm doing, but eventually I'll figure it out. and people will like what I have to say because what I have to say is interesting, and I'm going to deliver my message in a thoughtful, humorous, and compelling manner. Of course, they're going to like it.
You kind of said that like people like your personality. They know that you're smart, and you kind of had that throughout your life.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the next point. Is that if you have above average charisma, you know right away. You know it like in grade school. You're like, oh, I'm better at talking than everybody else. That just seems kind of be my thing. And that applies to most of us. There's very few like dry read from a script content creators like that. No, like folks like us, you knew it. So whenever I hear, and I don't believe anyone who says they thought differently. I don't. I like they can play the false modesty game all they want, but they don't fool old TJ.
And TJ, the ones that like are honest, like the ones that can say it honestly, they're the people who had like a couple things blow up, but then like never were able to maintain it because they never actually had the skill.
They never had it. Yeah.
Let me say something, guys. Let me say something. I have like literally, and I'm not joking here, I literally have like over 2,000 videos on my phone, and I'll make them for TikTok, and then I'm too scared to upload them because they're too whatever. I didn't say it right, or they're too controversial, or I think I'm gonna get dragged by somebody, and so I just don't upload it. So I wish that I had your TJ. Holy shit, dude! I wish I had your confidence, because that's something that I really struggle with. I know that I do have talents as far as public speaking and conveying a message, but god damn, bro, I don't know why I have so much doubt with it. You don't seem to have doubt. And you know what? You're one of the TikTokers that's so consistent. You're always throwing up content. It's great. Even if it's like a weird story about your cat one day, you'll like upload it. It's amazing.
I don't know. It's like, listen, actually it doesn't apply anymore. It's Coach D. I don't know if you follow Coach D at all. Coach D posts a video every fucking day. Like he did. I noticed this on TikTok. I do not post a video every day. I don't always feel like it. Coach D was on it. That guy was a workhorse, and now he does YouTube mostly. But that guy, I'm not doing that shit. So yeah, I don't know. It's when I don't post everything I can record either. But when it's good, it's good. And you know what? If it doesn't blow up, it's like, well, I guess their taste was shitty because that video is really good. That's just how I feel about it. I don't know. That's how it is.
So, right, John, I want to like kind of translate here because I understand what's happening. So I 100% believe that you have doubts about yourself, about your content. I don't think that's what, and TJ, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I don't think that's what TJ's talking about because everyone has doubt. You have egomaniacal perfectionists who constantly doubt their shit, but deep down, maybe I'm wrong about this, Rio, but in order to have the fucking balls to get in front of that camera in the first place and think for a second that anyone wants to hear your fucking voice and look at your fucking face, especially when it looks like, our faces. We're not fucking Leonardo DiCaprio here. None of us are ugly, but we know we're not making bank off of our face. In order to think that like anyone could want to listen to that, takes a certain level of ego and charisma to even get up to that. No one's pushing grown adults to go do this. We are self-selecting.
Yes.
Do you guys watch your own content? Can you?
That's funny. So that's funny. Well, really? Before I want to answer that. Yeah, I want to answer that, but I saw a comment here. We love the weird videos about TJ's cat. Yeah, they come and go. But honestly, the one hang up I had about doing social media, there's only one. I did not want to listen to my voice after recording a video. I hate, because like most people, unlike John, hate the sound of their voice. Like it doesn't sound right because, we all know why it doesn't. But it's just that's the hardest part to me. And plus, my whole life, people said, oh, you have a nice voice. I can't stand it. I think they're bullshitting me. And I was like, no one actually wants to hear this voice. This voice just sounds bad. I had a hard time getting over that. So yeah, I agree with you, Rio. It's hard. It's easier now that I've been doing it a long time. But that was one of the most difficult parts, is actually listening to myself. It's also, I don't like looking into my own eyes in the camera. That weirds me out. I don't like that. It's strange. Yeah. I should never be doing that unless I'm like fixing something. So, that's hard, but yeah, the voice part, I agree, that is difficult.
See, a lot of people are always surprised when I tell them, but like I grew up with a speech impediment. I was like not like nonverbal, like I couldn't speak, but nonverbal, I didn't speak because I couldn't speak well. And it comes out every once in a while. Like, if you really fucking pay attention, you'll pick up on a couple words here and there. But yeah, TJ, we've been talking for hours and hours and hours for over a year now, and you have never noticed because I fucking worked at it. I spent a lot of my childhood working at being able to talk. So by the time I fucking went to real school and shit, I was fine. But so I never, it has always just been I've always worked at my voice and how to speak and how to make things sound appropriate. So to me, it's just work at a craft. I don't get that embarrassment by it, but I understand that a lot of people feel that way.
Sweater.
It comes out. No, that isn't a speech impediment. That's just I just can't pronounce the word right in my head. Everyone has that.
John pronounced speech impediment. Like a pseudoscience. John will say pseudoscience. He's done it a couple of times. That's why Hugh Jass brought that up. That's kind of funny. That's not a speech impediment.
So I don't know if Hugh Jass has been here the whole time and not commenting. In my headcanon right now, he's been here the whole time, utterly silent, and then just came in with the haymaker.
Yep. It's been a light comment video today, but that's a good one, Suedo. That's pretty funny. Words that we can't pronounce, we've done that stuff before. What's weird to me is words that I thought were one way and they're just not. I've been wrong the entire time, like with Suedo, with John, or whatever. That happens sometimes. But okay, geez, we got to get to. We only have 15 minutes left here. Let's do it. Okay. All right. What do we guys think about Joe Biden? It's over. It's done. Joe Biden has 3 days left in office. He's going on this embarrassing tour where the house of cards is falling down in every direction, and he looks befuddled and weird. He referred to Hamas as Hezbollah in his speech about the ceasefire. So we'll go to you first, Rio. What do you think? How will history remember Joe Biden? Yeah.
Listen, I'll tell. I have a very decisive answer for this. I think that Joe Biden's presidency was the end of the illusion of American righteousness. I think that American righteousness did survive past George Bush, honestly. I mean, the rest of the world deconstructed it, but we didn't, But now, nobody thinks that the government is incentivized by some sort of moral leadership. Nobody thinks there's people hope that at the end of the day, somebody up there in a leadership position is driving the ship with some morality. That is dead. That is dead. I think the illusion fell. And I think that people saw that when it comes to international geopolitics, morality does not factor in. And we've been bringing up morality a lot this episode, but in my mind, the whole veneer of American exceptionalism, American righteousness, colonialism with Israel, that is just dead. That's what I think that he did. That's how I think history will remember him. What do you
think he could have prevented that collapse, or was it inevitable? And during his administration, at least.
Dude, it really I'll be honest, his administration is defined by Gaza. It really is. That's really the truth of it. And we're all the countries are kids on a playground, and I see Joe Biden as Joe Biden's the biggest bully. He has the biggest weapons. America is the world superpower, and everyone's playing on the playground. And one of the kids that's protected by the bully, that's Israel, starts beating up his little brother that he always brings to school. And everyone crowds around, and they just watch Israel just beat the brother. And it's so bad that the jaw's broken. It's horrible. No one can step in because this huge bully, America, is standing over Israel while it does this. So for all kids on a playground, Joe Biden's the big bully, or I should say the big tough guy that's strong enough to stop it. He doesn't. He just stands there watching because there's this alliance between them. And I really think that Joe Biden, you guys might not agree with this, that's okay. I think that through his 40-year career, I think that he was basically he became acclimated to following AIPAC around. It was simply the way things are done. And when shit hit the fan and he really needed to pull away from AIPAC, he didn't know how. He wasn't even conscious of dissent. He didn't even make any attempts to dissent from what AIPAC was doing or what Israel was doing. So I think he's just going to be remembered for that. Just a complete lack of morals and courage. And yeah, that does that make sense?
No,
it makes sense. However, where I will disagree is like everything you said was like right, but history isn't about what actually happened. Right?
True.
So like I think you have to look at it from a couple of different angles. There's his legacy from our perspective, from the people on the left who kind of understand what you just said. And I agree with that. For us, Gaza is going to be the biggest thing. In my mind, when I'm 80 years old and I'm thinking back to my 20s and Joe Biden as president, Gaza is going to be the thing that I remember the most. And for a lot of people in our generation, it will be that way because this was an awakening. And I do think that you are right, but you are early on the fall of the idea of American righteousness, because most Americans still believe America's the good guy. Like as much as this is, I don't think this is the end of that. I think it's the start. And obviously a lot of people have always said America's the bad guy, but like it was mostly just, weirdly online people on the left and the right. It wasn't your normies. What we're seeing, at least at my generation's level, is an awakening consciousness of that. And Gaza is the Trojan horse that has enabled a lot of developing class consciousness, a lot of developing understanding that, hey, America isn't the good guy. America's often the bad guy. And that is becoming much more of a central thesis of the American experience, but it's still not there yet. I mean, and I know this because of how many fucking people defend Joe Biden for all the things that he's done. Democrats, right? The Republicans don't expect Donald Trump to be a moral actor. They don't. But they do still believe America is the best because in their mind, might equals right. So they don't necessarily view it as morally wrong, but they don't expect their fucking leaders to be driven by morals. And on the Democrat side of things, we do. And I think that's actually what cooks Joseph Robinette Biden, is that I do think in his mind, he's a good guy. I think Joe Biden believes in his heart of hearts that he is a public servant, that he's there for the little guy, that he's trying to help people out, while also being deeply entrenched in the American state, which is the bad guy. And I think that if you look at his presidency that way, it does begin to make a little bit more sense. It explains why he pulled out of Afghanistan. For all of the bad things I can say about Joseph Biden, and I will remember for the rest of my life and never forgive him for, he pulled out of fucking Afghanistan. He fucking did that shit.
He did it
at great personal expense. It hurt him badly. One could argue he never recovered from it. And it was the right thing to do. And he fucking did it.
Yeah.
And that is a good thing.
Yeah.
He did a lot of really good domestic infrastructure investment. He did.
There are
a
good
lot
things
of
that he did.
His
did a lot of good
LBR
things.
was awesome.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the people who care about that shit won't remember it because of Gaza.
Yeah.
And they won't remember it also because of his incredibly ineffectual leadership at a time where America fucking needed it. When I thought about Obama's legacy, when I was sitting here like at the end of Obama's presidency, at that time in my life, I was wrong about a lot of fucking things. But one thing I was not wrong about is that Obama's the luckiest motherfucker ever that Donald Trump became president. Because history will remember Obama for all of the good things, and they will blame all of the bad things on Donald Trump after him. And I think Biden is going to be the exact opposite of that. All of the good things, not all, but a lot of the good things are going to just be subsumed into Trump. And all of the bad things that Trump ends up doing now is going to be blamed on Joe Biden. And it's exactly right. I'm going to read for you guys a tweet. And the tweet goes, if Democrats nominate Joe Biden, he may win. And we'll have 4 years of weak, feckless Democratic leadership. And then in 4 years, he'll be defeated by a Republican Party, even more openly white nationalists. If you nominate an Obama redux, you'll get a worse Trump redux. That was from the Gravel Institute on April 28th, 2019. And I think I saw that today, and I cannot imagine a better summation, like a more accurate fucking summation before it happened of exactly how Biden went. And that's exactly what's going to happen. He's going to be remembered as the guy who fucked up Gaza and who let Donald Trump be president again. That's his legacy. There's not going to be good things, even though he did do a lot of good things. They're going to be overshadowed by those two things.
One, I think it is too bad that Mike Gravel didn't live to see this, that he was exactly right with what was going to happen with Biden. And second, I want to point out, Heather commenting here, the right will never, so this is what Rio said about people realizing that America, the goodness is going away. But she says the right will never take that away, though. My family thinks that righteousness has finally prevailed and God is smiling on America. Yeah, the Christian nationalists and everything, that plays into Biden's legacy too. I think Biden is going to be remembered as a colossal failure as a president. It didn't have to be that way. It didn't have to be. Like there was a moment when he could have been transcended, but I think Biden reminds me a lot of Carter in a lot of ways. In that, like Carter, you could say Carter did good, had some good policy ideas or whatever, and as a manager, he did a decent enough job. But being the president is not about being a manager. You are a leader. You need to be a leader. Biden never screamed. And then again, like that's the Democrats' fault. And for voting him into the primary, that's what happened. It's you see these videos of Biden in 2016 and 2019 and 2018. Different fucking dude. I mean, he aged rapidly when he got in office, and like he could put sentences together. He could be clever and funny, and he did it just way too late. And so what's going to happen is, or what happened is that he's like, oh, well, I like leaving Afghanistan. That was a good idea. His labor stuff, he did a lot of infrastructure. But when he had his FDR moment, well, now it's time to lead. Now it's time to galvanize and inspire and motivate the nation. He didn't have it in him. It wasn't there. No one was lining up to follow. Say what you want about Donald Trump. People would crawl over broken glass to vote for Donald Trump. People begrudgingly voted for Biden 2 straight elections. He did nothing to change that after his first election. Nothing at all. Then when his big moment came with Gaza, it's like, yeah, I'm just going to sit back and let this happen. Just going to go. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of, if you ever look at those lists of the worst presidents, you will see near the bottom a bunch of names you don't recognize. You'll see Chester A. Arthur. You'll see like you'll see James Buchanan. You'll see James K. Polk, not Arthur, but Polk and Buchanan, folks like that. Like you never learned about these presidents, and the reason they're listed as bad is because the Civil War was brewing for like 20 years. It was gonna happen, and everybody knew it. And they sat around and didn't do anything. They didn't do anything at all. They were one-term presidents, turn over the next guy who also didn't do anything. Like he's gonna be blamed for not only allowing Trump to come back a second time in humiliating fashion, but also coming to, like what Rio said, not only eventually the death of the United States as the moral leader of the world, but like I mentioned earlier, the death of liberalism. It's done. It's over. I like liberalism as a sustaining movement that people get behind. I don't know how it recovers from this. I really don't. I'm not saying that a liberal Democratic president can't win again. Like there's 2 choices. One of them is going to be a liberal Democrat next time. But the movement has not done itself any favors. The younger generation on the right and the left is like, this is feckless and useless. This doesn't help us at all. Like everyone sat around patting each other on the back because we defeated Trump in 2020, only to let him come back and do it again. It would have been better if Trump won in 2020. It would have been. Like we would be better off if Trump just did 8 straight years. Then they'll have him win, have 4 years of Trump just hovering over us in the background, showing that our institutions are unable to stop him, that they weren't going to throw him in jail. They weren't going to actually take any action after January 6th. January 6th happened. People still voted for him. No one thinks better of the nation now. Even Republicans, like no one thinks better of the nation now after Biden's 4 years. And so that's what I think is going to happen. Like he failed on the most important moments that could define his presidency, and that's how he's going to be remembered for it.
I don't think anything can encapsulate that better than, and I'm lumping the Harris campaign into this because it was an extension of Biden's campaign and presidency, but calling Donald Trump an existential threat to democracy. In his farewell address, saying that we are in danger of oligarchs taking over the country. And having not had the urgency while being the most powerful man in the world to do fuck all about it. I think that encapsulates the problem that we have, and that even if Americans don't understand it, the problem they have with Joe Biden is that he says things are important and then acts as if they are not. Because to his credit, I don't know, he's been doing this for, gosh damn 60 years, and everything's kind of all just worked out for America.
Yeah.
And if that's your experience, it's like, yeah, no, I don't want to rock the boat at all. I'm going to be very I'm going to be risk averse, and I'm going to just kind of do the general okay-ish thing and just keep the ship moving forward. And what he doesn't understand, and what I don't think a lot of Democrats understand, a lot of Americans in general understand, is that the time for that is over. We are no longer so far in the lead that we can afford to just make sure it keeps pushing forward. We have to be aggressive. And if you say that things are important, you need to have your actions back that up. And he sometimes did, but never in the ways that actually will end up mattering to his legacy.
Yep.
What do you guys think about, TJ, what do you think is coming in the future after liberalism?
Well, you know how they say it's either socialism or barbarism. Like, those are the two options for the end of the world. I got to say, if I had to bet, I bet barbarism. Like, I don't think it's going to get better anytime soon. I think that eventually it will, but I think the near future is going to be very bad. I do. I think
Really?
that, yeah, I do. Because obviously with the Trump presidency, a lot of stuff's going to go bad. But no one is going to learn the right lesson here. That I guarantee you, in 2028, we're gonna have a gap. Well, maybe not Gavin Newsom after the fires, but another standard Democrat. They're not gonna elect so like Bernie Sanders. He'll be too old, but anyone like him. Plus, I know it's 4 years early, but who the fuck would it be? Like, who is the leader of the Democratic Party right now? Who are even the contenders? I think that, like, the people, galvanizing and working together around something is a long way off. I saw a great post saying this, that Karl Marx wrote about communism and how communism is obviously going to happen eventually because how poor people are suffering all over the place. But Karl Marx could have never predicted that one day poor people would be able to buy ice cream. Like, and it's true. Like that item that was an absolute luxury for people, like unimaginable that a poor person could have ice cream 200 years ago. Now you can. Not only can poor people have ice cream, but you can watch any movie you want. You can listen to any song that you want. You can distract yourself from your miseration quite easily. And until it gets bad enough that that's not going to matter, people aren't going to unite around of some kind of dictatorship of the proletariat. It can happen, but I think that's a long way off. So things are going to get worse and worse and worse until that happens. Like, I'm not an accelerationist. That's just my prediction. Like, what do you think, John?
So I'm going to give the hopeful outlook here, in that, yeah, it's going to be bad for the next 4 years. My saving grace to that is if we had just rolled the dice here, and I would say most times, I agree with TJ, it's going to have to get really fucking bad because we just elected the fascists in the time of this great change. The issue with that is the fascists are led by a fucking moron, and not the normal type of fascist moron, because every fascist is a moron on some level. Right. But like Hitler was no fucking genius, as much as people want to say that he was also an idiot. But Donald Trump is an incompetent moron in every fucking way, except the ways that matter for him winning the election and him continue. He's a branding genius, but he's not a fucking government genius. So he doesn't have the chops to successfully completely destroy our institutions, and the people surrounding him that do, luckily for us, his ego is too big to really penetrate all that much, so he's easily fucking distracted. And so, yeah, while it could get really bad, I don't think it's going to get really bad, but I do stand by what I said earlier, in that class consciousness is exploding in America.
It's gonna grow. Like, the class consciousness is that's the one, like, good. I have a sense that good things are coming. I mean, call me, I don't know, an idealist or whatever, but I have a sense that good things are coming, and I really do believe that the class consciousness thing is gonna grow. I think that's coming, and that's gonna change things. I think
because Rio, I just want to add on to that the thing that I was saying about how the Democrats always lie and people are just fucking sick of it, that will catch up to the Republicans. The people who are against the Democrats because they're like, these guys are liars and I don't trust them, eventually the bill is going to come due for the Republicans and they ain't going to be able to fucking pay it. And those people are going to be looking for another answer. And there's going to be a base of people with class consciousness ready to fucking educate them. And that's when it fucking happens.
You guys are forgetting that aliens are coming in 2026. So,
well, is that when they're coming?
That will change things.
If aliens come, everything I've said on the show is mute. Everything changes.
I don't know whether it's aliens or robots. Let them have it. I mean, it's not like we've done such a bang up job with the place. I just think that the class consciousness thing, I'm not. I don't know. It's just I don't really see it. I just don't because well,
even the right is starting to be against billionaires. Like it's weird. Like,
but it doesn't mean anything though, because it's like it reminds me of like with the class consciousness around Luigi Mangione. Everyone, regardless of their left or right, loves Luigi. There's fuck that guy. But when it comes down, they all have the same complaints, but the solutions couldn't be more different, right? Is like where you had like there's tens of millions of right wingers who they would wear a free Luigi shirt, like, yeah, fuck the rich and the class. And then what do you want to do? Well, we should elect Republicans because the problem is that these rich people are, too woke or something. Like it's I don't really see at least half the country, more than half now, apparently, is thinking like this. And then when you get to us, ours is all over the place too. There's folks like us who say, obviously we need workers to own the means of production. We need, to strip away power from the ruling elites and CEOs and everything. And the right is like, oh no, we just need good CEOs. Or not the liberals, like we need good CEOs. We need real like regulations and stuff. I think it's way too splintered. Now, eventually it could happen, but I don't see it happening quickly. Or in the next 10 years even. I think that it's a long way off because it's easy for people to agree with the problem. Settling on a solution, absent a political leader, I don't think is around the corner. Maybe I'm being too pessimistic, but that's just what I see.
There needs to be this is going to sound cheesy, okay?
Here we go.
There needs to be another Martin Luther King. There needs to be some kind of big, strong figure. I don't want to be like authoritarian or anything, but like there needs to be another Bernie Sanders. There needs to be something.
Yeah. I agree. I hate that I agree, but I do. I think that without it comes down to it, we, are very primitive, creatures. Like we like ourselves a leader and someone who can just get up there. That's why Trump is so effective, is that he appeals to the shaved ape nature of human beings that, strong man makes me feel good about myself. And, 1,000 voices saying something. Sorry, folks. 1,000 voices saying something with strong conviction is great, but one person leading that 1,000 voices can get a lot more done. It's as someone who loves democracy, I do hate that, but that is the way human beings are, and that's why, like John and I would say all the time, I think the moment is past now. But I think if Jon Stewart would have ran for president this election or last election, it would have been amazing for the country. I think though the moment is past. I just think this time is gone. My voice is fucking up.
I made a TikTok telling Jon Stewart to run in early 2023, and people just laughed me out of the room. So,
well,
it would work, but he's not. He doesn't want to do it.
He doesn't.
That's the end of it. If he was the kind of person who would have wanted to do it, he wouldn't have quit the Daily Show to become a farmer. But also, if he was the kind of person who wouldn't have quit the Daily Show to become a farmer, we wouldn't be wanting him to be president right now. It's the fucking catch-22 there. But the one thing I would say, TJ, and you're right, there needs to be a leader. There's a bunch of things that need to happen. I'm not going to say we're going to succeed in a fucking socialist revolution or whatever, but in 2016, Luigi Mangione would have never been widely celebrated like he was ever. It wouldn't have even been considered that anyone besides the staunchest of weirdos would be celebrating Luigi Mangione.
Yeah,
and now it's fairly commonplace to just meet someone who does. You know, like it just, and if you walk in certain circles like I do, like it's the default assumption that Luigi is the good guy here. So like that is the progress I'm talking about of like this is a different world.
Almost unconscious.
What was that?
Yeah, almost unconscious.
Yeah.
And
yeah, is it bad?
Yeah,
right.
That's
but that's my point about the eventually you have to pay the bill. Is that like Trump says it himself. He doesn't care about a single election after this one. He doesn't care about the Republican Party. He doesn't care about establishing power after Trump. It's meaningless to him. So, like, if you had a fucking leader that cared about cementing his ideology and institutions that will outlive him, that would be very scary. Yeah. Donald Trump doesn't give a shit about what happens after he removes himself from the Oval Office. In fact, I don't think he really gives a shit about what happens like
now, right?
Now, you know?
Yeah,
he's just like fucking playing with house money now.
Yeah.
But all of these people who expect him to be their savior are going to be sorely disappointed, and they're going to be looking for an answer. And I think that the next 4 years is about preventing him from doing harm and building a solid fucking answer for them to turn to. And that is the path forward.
That's exactly it. And I'm not convinced that's going to happen. That's really what it comes down to. Because like, for example, the example I just thought of could mirror this is it would be surprising in, I don't know, to think you talk to someone in 2004 that the Republicans as a whole would hate George W. Bush. Unimaginable. There's like, no, he was a very popular president, and like he would be booed at the RNC, that Republican nominees would shit on him. You couldn't imagine that. That's the world we live in. It's not better. I saw it's like properly identifying the problems that Bush and Cheney are bad. Yeah, the Republicans did that. It hasn't helped us at all. And it's not going. That's what.
Retort, TJ.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I see.
Yeah, you just smashed me.
It's like because I've seen this so many times. It's like, oh, look at this. They're all cheering on against the bad thing. Yeah, but what are they cheering for? And it's just as bad. So until like someone like Rio can come, like if Bernie was 20 years younger, I think he'd be a good candidate for someone that people could rally behind. And
Bernie just missed the fucking boat. Like you're so right. Like if he was just born at the wrong fucking boat.
He was. But I will say this though, to add some sort of silver lining on this, is that I am pretty down on this a lot because I see it's going to be a slog. But I think you look at pictures of Bernie Sanders in the 1980s in Vermont, and you'll see him holding pro-trans rallies in the fucking 80s, in the Reagan era. If Bernie could make it through that, we can make it through this. Yeah, he did more under worse conditions. So, it might take 30 years, but, I think we can get around it. But I do think it'd be closer to 30 years than 10. Oh, Jesus, 8:42. Man, we went
8:42. Mark is asking if we're still live.
We're still live, yeah.
Which is an odd question to comment on a live stream, I will say, Mark. But yes, we are still live.
With live streams, they last after you're done. Like they're not like they're true, they're like there's like a little delay. So yeah, maybe Mark thought fair,
but yes,
he hopped on 20 seconds. Yeah.
We should be wrapping up here.
We should, yeah. I don't got anything else. If anyone else does.
I don't got anything else. All I have to say is if you made it to this point in the video, congratulations. You were probably teased about Joe Biden's legacy, or you heard our thoughts on it, and you probably could have guessed them. It wasn't a very surprising episode of all that we teased, but what was surprising is the excellent moral conversations we had with our wonderful guest, Rio. If you want to hear more from him, Rio, where can people find you?
Just on TikTok, at Nathan Rio. I should have given you guys the little thing, at Nathan Rio on TikTok.
Hey,
I'd say fuck it, we'll fix it in post, but we're not.
We're not going to do that. We're not going to do that. This show used to look a lot slicker. We're like, no, we're posting this shit. But hey, we appreciate you guys watching. Thanks so much for your support. We look forward to seeing you in the future, either here on YouTube or on TikTok. We're still around. If not, you can find Rio at least over at Red Note Xiao Hong Shu or whatever in Chinese. We'll catch you whatever, folks. Later. That was a hell of an episode.